For several months, I've been revisiting the research of L.B. McHarg, written in 1942, tracking Boone Trace, the pathway to Boone Trace, coming out of Knox County and into Laurel. And today I've made my way to the Campbell Smith Cemetery, which was the first property owner that L.B. McHarg cited in his 1942 research when he walked Boone Trace from Knox County line all the way through Laurel to the Rockcastle line. And I'll share with you some of the views from up on top of the hill that looks downward toward where the trace would have run, near the Campbell Smith farm, where Campbell Smith Sr. is buried today. In my Boone Trace research, following the notes of L.B. McHarg from 1942, McHarg said he came out of Knox County, and one of the first properties that he came to in Laurel was the farm of Campbell Smith. Now, Campbell Smith died in 1904, and this farm became the property of Campbell Smith Jr. But it took me a while to find this, several months, but I finally made it to the Campbell Smith Cemetery, which has got Campbell and his wife Sally, and some unmarked graves. There's one, there's 2, 3, over here's another one. Anyway, the cemetery is as I expected. It's up on a knoll with the farmland down in the bottom. Now, according to the research of Lee McHarg, Boone Trace followed a path that came up in this valley over here and hit Robinson Creek, which is running left to right through here. And he said he followed the Campbell Smith farm on the south side of Robinson Creek, which is where I am. And of course, Campbell being buried up here on the hill is another indication that this was definitely his farm. So from the cemetery, we are on the south side of Robinson Creek. And according to Lee McHarg's research, Boone Trace followed the backwaters of Robinson Creek, which are coming up right through that valley right there. The backwaters coming right up through that valley. And he said he turned left northeast. He turned northwest. There's the northwest turn. And followed Robinson Creek along the farm of Campbell Smith, which was on the south side of Robinson Creek. And that's where we are, on the south side of Robinson Creek. So Boone Trace came through here, folks. Came off across Tuttle Road, and it came up this way, did a left turn, and followed this route. And you can see back there where the land rises. I'll explain to you what he did there, but I think what he did is he went around to the right and back toward Robinson Creek. This is a spot I've been wanting to get to for a long time, just to get up here and take a look at this lay of the land from the Campbell Smith Cemetery. It's just a perfect pathway, good level ground, avoiding the high ground, both here where Campbell's buried and on up that way, which that hill is between where I'm at and Robinson Creek Road, or Highway 830 on the other side. Beautiful place up here. So once Boone came up following the headwaters there and made the northwestern turn following the bottom land across through there, he would have done all he could to avoid this high ground where I'm currently standing at the Campbell Smith Cemetery and the high ground beyond. Boone would have gone following that valley around behind that high ground right there. Now that all that bottom land right down there, you can see Robinson Creek running right through there. And all the bottom land on the south side of the creek belonged to Campbell Smith. And you can just imagine that the trace followed the bottom land. And this is a lip right here. And you see the bottom land down there in the green grass. Boone Trace would have trekked right around through there. Now the Campbell Smith cemetery would have been over that way, and the Campbell Smith farm down in the bottom. And what I've done is I've gone a little bit more toward the west, found an old logging road which is above the path where the trace would have gone, but it also is a good illustration of why Boone would not have come this way. He's way down there in the bottom. There's no way that he would have climbed this. He would have avoided it by going all the way, following the Robinson Creek all the way back around to the other side of this. And I'm gonna go up on top of this and see if I can get a view of the other side. This is up at the top of the ridge, and a better indication where I'm at is about 1,300 feet. And down in the bottom land is about 1,180 feet. So an obvious difference in elevation. And the trace would have followed from right to left and literally gone all the way around this ridge. But a great ridge to get an indication of the elevation difference. Almost 1,300 where I'm standing, and about 1,150, 1,160 down at the bottom in Robinson Creek. I walked right out this ridge from that direction back toward here, and when you get here it starts to drop down in all directions. The Campbell Smith farm down there in the bottom, and you can get a really good indication of where Boone Trace would have gone and avoided all this high ground. As I've suspected several times and studied the works of Lee McHarg, I've often felt that there was a really good indication that the trace left the Campbell Smith farm and hugged around the bottom of this ridge all the way back around toward Robinson Creek, where Lee McHarg set a marker in 1942 for Boone Trace that led you back to McHarg to the west and back toward Raccoon Spring. What a great looking place up here. Fantastic looking. Definitely a good place to come up and scout to check out what your surroundings might have been too, for pioneers in Boone, and maybe even a place to get off trail and come up and get off trail and camp a little bit, or hunt the deer in the high ground, or whatever. It's definitely a great place up here. Now, to give you some perspective, I was just following that ridge right out through there, in order to look down at the bottom, which is over that lip. And of course the Campbell Smith Cemetery is back over there near that deer blind. So, give you a little perspective of where we are. In the distance is Westerfield Road, which cuts across from Robinson Creek back to 229. Tuttle Road would be back in that direction. Knox County back in that direction. Now I'm going to make my way back down toward the bottomland to where I believe the trace came passing through the Campbell Smith farm. You know, if there had been a little connector, this would have been a perfect little place for the trace to have come, just popping back up off of Tuttle Road and up through here. But I still believe Boone would have probably followed the lower ground. But you could argue that I'm walking trace right now, avoiding the high ground and sort of sticking to the middle ground. Back down toward Robinson Creek. The high ridge was way up there a few minutes ago. The Campbell Smith Cemetery on the lower ridge here, and the bottom ground. This is the south side of Robinson Creek. As Lee McHargue said, the trace followed through the Campbell Smith farm on the south side of Robinson Creek. And the creek is just right up here a little ways. In fact, there's a little bridge right here. So I am on the south side of Robinson Creek. This would have been the Campbell Smith farm. And according to L.B. McHargue, the trace would have come bebopping right through this country. And probably back toward that country, avoiding this high ground, making its way around that high ground and crossing over what we now call Highway 830, where there's a 1942 historic marker that was placed there by Lee McHargue when he was marking Boone Trace. Robinson Creek's running right through there, right along the edge of the screen. You just get that feeling, as John Fox says. You just get that feeling. Show you Robinson Creek right here. Pretty good bridge over the creek. It's concrete, which makes you wonder one time if this is an old county road. Robinson Creek flowing toward Highway 830. And there goes the creek that way. Now when the creek gets right down there, Boone he came out of that gap down through there, and he made a northwest turn, which puts him coming this way. We'll go walk some of the farmland back toward Tuttle Road. But this is just the route of the trace according to the research of Lee McHargue in 42. Walking in the pasture land here of what used to be the Campbell Smith farm. Campbell's buried up on top of that hill there. The ridge I walked out right up there. And you can tell, folks, that if McHargue was right and Boone Trace came this direction, he would have done all he could to have avoided that high spot and stuck to the low ground and followed the Robinson Creek up and around that hill. But I've been wanting to get here for months and take you down here and show you how it all fits into the McHargue description on a larger scale. Now, Lee McHargue said that Boone Trace followed a specific passage coming out of Knox County into Laurel County. And he said that the trace followed a dividing ridge between headwaters of the middle fork of Little Richland Creek and headwaters of Lincamp Creek. There's only one place on earth that follows that description, and it is down in an area off of 25E and follows Higgins Road to Lewis Road to Sam Parker Road and then to Heifer Creek Road into Laurel County. There's only one place where that corridor meets up. Now please keep in mind, Boone Trace was a bridle path. It wasn't a highway. It was a 6-8 foot bridle path. So what we try to do in Friends of Boone Trace is just identify the corridor. And if you follow that corridor, Boone Trace makes its way up Heifer Creek Road in Laurel County and follows a little small creek that ends up becoming headwaters to Robinson Creek. There are actually 3 little small creeks that combine. One is the little small creek that follows along Heifer Creek, then Heifer Creek, and then another little branch called Camp Branch. All 3 of those converge. And these are the headwaters of Robinson Creek. And Lee McHargue said that the trace followed these headwaters and came up here and made a northwest turn. The northwest turn is right there. I'll show you that. Definitely the headwaters of Robinson Creek. Meandering away up this pasture land. Show you where the northwest turn is. Now the headwaters are coming right up here. Actually, there's an old tile. Get down in here and show you. Get on top of this old tile. There come the headwaters of Camp Branch, Heifer Creek, and the other headwater creek. Across this tile, meeting Robinson Creek. Robinson Creek's going left and right. Here's the northwest turn and the passage of Boone's Trace, or the pathway of Boone Trace, right back toward the bridge that we crossed a while ago. Did they stick this close to the creek? Who knows? They could have been over that way 200 yards. But they were definitely following the south side of the creek. Headwaters meeting right straight ahead of you. Robinson Creek headed that way. And this is the way Robinson Creek went back toward Highway 830, Robinson Creek Road, and the pathway of the trace. And the Campbell Smith farm on the south side of the creek. As I said, nobody knows exactly where the trace went. We'll go over there and hit some of those woods on the woods line before it gets steep. Who knows? They could have stayed out of the true bottom and hugged near a small rise. We'll go check it out. You know, if President John Fox of the Boone Trace group were with me right now, he'd probably be all giddy, swearing up and down this was Boone Trace. That's the pasture land that belonged to Campbell Smith, and if we'd have got up here and followed the headwaters and made the northwest turn, we'd still be following this path. And there is an unusual looking pathway coming up through here. It's not really a water ditch or diversion ditch. It looks like a trail that's scooting right along, and it's sort of got a high side and a low side. Here's the high side. Boone Trace? Who the heck knows? Could very well be. But it almost looks like a diversion ditch running down through here, but it doesn't really carry much water that I can tell. Could have been an old trail, but it turned into a diversion ditch over time. Water follows the path of least resistance. Definitely following the same coordinates, the same direction. The trace is going right to left, right up that way, and I'm walking parallel with it on the Campbell Smith farm, south of Robinson Creek. After following that little pathway, it absolutely does turn into a little blue line feeder back up toward Robinson Creek. But it definitely also follows the corridor of the trace. You know, when you're walking in territory like this, following the description that McHargue made, you can just about guarantee you're all over the trace, where 250,000, 300,000 pioneers made their way west toward a promise of a new life. Okay, so over there's the pasture land, and down there's the little Blue Line Creek, and maybe sometimes your mind plays tricks on you, but also looks like this is an old trail coming through here. Hard to know. A lot of briars. But it continues right on through there. That was a thicket to get through. But once you get through it, I don't know. We're definitely following the pathway of L.B. McHarg's words that he wrote down in 1942. There's a strong argument for Boone Trace right here. Campbell Smith buried up there on the hill to our left. This farmland right there. Fox, I know what you're thinking. That's it. Now, a bridle path that was cut in 1775, used pretty much through 1795. Been a long time ago. And there are pieces of it that do still exist. If this is one of them, nothing short of a miracle. But miracles do happen along Boone Trace. To give you an idea, the bridge that I crossed a while ago over Robinson Creek is right there. So I'm literally heading in that direction. And the high ridge that I avoided a while ago is up that way. So there's a good chance that we're walking Boone Trace for sure. And I believe on the other side, the other property owner on the other side likely has trace going through there too. Maybe get a chance to explore that this winter and make that final connection back over to the marker back over on Robinson Creek Road. But that's an area I've wanted to explore for a while, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, coming out of Knox County up to the headwaters, Heifer Creek, Camp Branch, Robinson Creek, Campbell Smith Farm. This is a piece of the puzzle I've been wanting to video and walk for a long time, and it gives me a whole lot of confidence in the research of Lee B. McHarg, LB. You can stand here and see whatever I said that was a while ago, 1,386 feet. No way is Daniel Boone gonna go bebopping up that way. He's gonna go bebopping around that way and miss all that. Much obliged to the property owner here who gave me permission today to get out here and stroll around. Very appreciative of property owners who have an interest in history and knowing what once happened on land that they now own. That's the direction I'd like to explore next. See if there might accidentally be any signs of some old Boone Trace making its way around that way. From the banks of Robinson Creek and along Boone Trace. Thanks for watching.